Hey folks, Andy here. Just before we get started, I promised that the episode we're going to do more interviews, and here is the first one. Great conversation. Rob, who I met on TikTok, he's a great collector. He collects comic pages and art and all kinds of stuff, and he's a great guy. I'm glad we got to talk to him. I hope you enjoy this conversation with friend of the show, Rob.
You're listening to And This Is Why I Love Comics. Andy and Mike!
I take it you're familiar with John Romita Sr., right?
And welcome to another episode of And This Is Why I Love Comics. I'm Andy.
And I'm Mike.
And we are celebrating the first interview of the 90s, not the 1990s, although in a way, maybe. I mean, we'll probably see some stuff from the 1990s. From the 90th episode, we welcome Rob from TikTok, someone I saw on TikTok. And I just got to say, Rob, the reason I picked you was two reasons. One, you reminded me very much of Mike and I in the 90s, going to Chicago cons and all this stuff. We were living life, we were living the dream, and you were living the dream from what I can tell. I don't know a whole lot about your background, but we've got kids and all that stuff. I know I do know now you have one, but that all slows everything down, but you're still like in the midst of it. Like you're on the top of your game. I think you should enjoy this while you can.
I am.
And you had so many interesting videos in a very short time. I thought you fit right in. I thought if we lived nearby each other, you would be our best friend. That's kind of the thing. Like, oh, you fit right into the crowd of us. So welcome to the show.
I'm glad to be here. So fire away. Book with my love of comic books.
Yeah, you do have a love of comic books. That's for sure. You can see it right away on your TikTok videos. You're in Florida, right? So
yes, I'm in Naples, Florida.
Snowmageddon has not hit you at all.
Just a good little cold front. Right now it's about 40 something outside, so it's not like it's bone chilling cold.
Right.
It does kick you every now and then.
Okay. That would be warm from where we're at. I'm in Michigan. Mike's on the border of Michigan. So yeah, we're in the midst of the snow. It is supposed to be -5 tonight. It's not fun. That's what we get for living in Michigan.
Definitely choose to do so. That's
someday I'll be in a warmer state. First of all, we're in our 50s. Our podcast is kind of about grumpy old men kind of thing.
I'm getting there.
That's good. You're not a young 20 or anything like that. So
No.
You've been collecting since 2005, 6?
No. 2006 was when I attended my very first comic book convention.
Oh, okay.
I've been collecting comic books before I was even 5, thanks to my parents. And it's kind of long-winded regarding my background and my parents. Comic books, the love of comic books goes all the way back to my parents, particularly with my mother, because both of them were born in Puerto Rico. Both of them did not actually meet each other. My mom and dad did not meet each other until the 1950s when they were in high school. So I'm going to stop that part right there. So back to my mother. When she came from Puerto Rico to New York in 1943 or 44, she didn't know any English, neither did her brother or her sisters. The only one that knew English was her mother, my grandmother. And she learned, I think, 2 months prior before the big move. So she figured, how am I going to get my kids to learn English? What she did was she bought comic books for them. And again, this is when they still had mass production of the comic books. So my mom, my uncle, and my aunts all held like Action Comics 1, Detective 27, Captain America #1. They held all the first appearances of everybody you could think of during that golden age of time. And they would buy the comic books. And that's how my family, my mom's side, learned English, was through comic books at a young age. Then back to my parents. My dad joined the Air Force in 1956. A year later, in 1957, they got married. In 1961, my brother was born during my mom's 7th month of pregnancy, and he barely survived. He was in an incubator for a couple of weeks. Throughout his childhood, he had to go through 19 operations on his legs because the muscles, the tendons, and the ligaments were never fully developed. A couple years after my brother was born, there was baby Richie. I say baby Richie because, similar to my brother, he was born during my mom's 7th month of pregnancy, and within less than 40-something hours, he died.
Wow.
That was a big blow. A couple years later, after baby Richie, my mom had a miscarriage. So then she had to get a hysterectomy. And that was in the mid-1970s. You're probably wondering, wait a minute, how am I here?
That doesn't add up.
If she got a hysterectomy in the 70s, I was born in the 80s. In 1981, my dad was stationed in Honduras. And he was the right-hand man to the law top brass working at the embassy. So they always have parties and events. In this one particular party or gathering that they had, there was a woman there named Carmen, which also happens to be my mom's name. They got along very well. They clicked so fast. Within the next couple months, when they got to know each other, she said, hey, my brother is a pediatrician doctor, and there's a lot of babies that need to be adopted. Would you consider adopting a child? And my mom said yes, she would love to, given everything that she's gone through. My dad was hesitant because he thought in his mind at the time, being 44 and 43 years old, a little bit too old for raising a child. My mom persisted a little bit, and then my dad said, okay, let's go. They went to the orphanage, and there was literally like a lineup at the time. There was no like dividers or anything like that. What I was told, about 7 babies all next to one another. And my mom went down the line, tickling the stomachs to see who would respond. And apparently I did by grabbing her pinky. And I was only 9 days old when they saw me. And they said, okay, let's go for this one. And my dad, and this is true, he goes, are you sure? It has a very cone-shaped head. So she's like, it'll grow out.
Right.
So then a week or two later, they took me home in a quote unquote like a tryout. But they knew immediately when they took me home, I was theirs. And again, thank goodness for my dad's rank and who he knew. That really did help the adoption process. So paperwork wise, I was their son officially when I was 1 year and 5 days old. But I was pretty much theirs the moment they took me home from the orphanage.
Sure. Yeah.
Now to the comic books. June 2nd, 1987, my 5th birthday, my favorite birthday of them all. How do you tell a child that they're adopted, but you still love them? So my mom remembered the mythology of the comic books. She showed me the movie, Superman the movie, the 10 Commandments, the Batman stuff, all Aquaman, Captain Marvel, all those cartoons and characters at a very young age. On my 5th birthday, I remember entering the room when I woke up, and they're like, happy birthday, this and that. And they said, we got something to tell you. Okay. Next thing I know, they showed me the map of the world, and they said, hey, you're located here in Naples, Florida. You were born over here in Honduras. So anybody not born in this big, giant region called immigrants, just like how Superman and Aquaman were. Boom, it clicked.
Right. Yeah.
Then they used part of one of the origins of Aquaman where, she gives birth, leaves him at the lightkeeper's house, and then he raised him on his own. Same thing for Billy Batson with the Wizard Shazam, in a sense, where he kind of looks over Billy. Alfred with Bruce Wayne. And of course, I mentioned the 10 Commandments because she put Moses in the little crate or basket, and the Pharaoh's daughter raised him in that sense. So again, all those elements I understood at the age of 5 years old. Orphan and adopted and an immigrant.
Yeah, the secret origin.
Yeah. And again, to tell a 5-year-old that you have a common bond with the Man of Steel, the world's greatest detective, king of the 7 seas, and the world's mightiest mortal. Oh, and plus a guy who freed his people.
Right.
That's kind of cool.
Right.
So again, I owe everything to that's why I love comic books, because it helped my family, my mom's side, to learn English and this and that. And then she remembered those characters to help me understand my background. That's why I love comic books.
That's pretty cool. That's a good reason. I just really liked Superman. I guess that was my origin.
Well,
Yeah.
so again, if I have a Superman ring on,
Oh, sweet.
well, yeah, I do love Superman, but it's more so because I can't relate to Superman, but I can definitely relate to Clark because when my dad retired from the Air Force, we did move to Naples, Florida in 1984. We had a 2.5 acre yard. So that had a lot of yard work, and we had some pheasants, we had some animals. But again, I always referred my parents as the Latin versions of Ma and Pa Kent. And the best part is I have a brother too. Again, they're only blood child that survived. And even though my
Right.
brother Ralph and I, we're just 21-year gap between us.
Okay.
Even though he and I are far in age, I'm very fortunate that we're tight.
That's very
And,
cool.
and he introduced me to two franchises that I'm forever grateful. That's the Peanuts. So I love Charlie Brown, Snoopy, all that great characters by Charles Schwartz. And the other thing that he got me into, Star Trek.
But Mike, you've got a Peanuts background, don't you, Mike, in the toy industry?
Yeah, back in the day. Yeah, if you look on eBay or in an antique store or probably Goodwill at this point, a lot of the Peanuts Charlie Brown toys from the early 2000s. So I did the toys based off of Charlie Brown Christmas and the Great Pumpkin Charlie Brown, and then some other Charlie Brown toy lines. But the best part, unfortunately, the line came out after Charles Schultz had passed, but I got to go to his house and got to sit in his seat.
Any original artwork?
Yeah, all of that was out on display. There's a great museum in Costa Mesa, California, and it's right next door to his studio and home, across the street from his ice skating rink he had in California. Because he was born in Minnesota, so like the rest, the two of us, born in cold climates and loved all there was to love in that kind of environment. So moved out to California and built an ice skating rink for the neighborhood, and then, but yeah, got to sit in his chair and just like this is where he drew Peanuts for 50 years. He had drawn in, not necessarily here all the time, but this was the drawing spot, and it was just such a weird. And I got to meet his, at the time now obviously, widow, but she kind of gave us a whole tour, and it was just fantastic.
What I always find fascinating about his death is the fact he kind of was like Charlie Brown, who never really kicked that football or never really hit that. So he died, I think, a week or a couple of days before the last strip came out.
Yeah.
So I was like, wow, imagine, just similar to like Charlie Brown, he missed it by that much.
You do wonder, because it's like, was him doing that ritual, the day-to-day ritual of doing the comic strip, because he had retired and stopped drawing it, but he had enough in the
can, yeah,
in the can that they just kept going for a few more months. But then, like you said, which one caused what? Charlie Brown is done. All the new stuff is done. I'm done. What do you do? Some people don't know what to do in retirement, and some people go, but I mean, that's a long time to be doing comics. He was one of the very few, and one of the reasons why I admired him is that he did his own stuff.
Yeah.
He didn't have a team of assistant artists. He didn't have backup writers. It was just purely him doing the comic.
The only other cartoonist that I could kind of think of right now who's in that ballpark area is going to be Jim Davis on Garfield.
Yeah, he's been doing it for a while, a long time. Yeah, then they're based out of Muncie, Indiana, called Paws Inc. If you ever go down to that facility, they have a world-class cafeteria, because it's a compound. All the different artists that draw Garfield and so forth, and the different writers, they all have their own things, their own space, but it's such a big place that the chef has a cookbook that is just like, he's the executive chef for Paws Incorporated.
Well, you're not going to say they only serve lasagna, though, right?
Wow.
Yeah, it's 4 different kinds, but
4 different kinds of lasagna, but
absolutely forever. There's some where it's like you might need to hang up the hat, but others. I had a good friend of mine who referred to the Peanuts as gentle humor, where it wasn't like, make you laugh out loud, but it made you feel good inside. You read it, you understood it, you related to it, and then it wasn't like, oh my goodness, that was the best one-liner I've ever read in my life, but it was just like, that was good. That was just kind of that heartwarming humor.
Like Calvin and Hobbes.
Yeah.
That actually got really funny because there are some moments I tormented my children about. One of the best moments was the dad, like Calvin's asking like, how big is the sun? And the dad goes, it's the size of a quarter, and he holds up a quarter to the sun and it blocks it out. He's like, see, it's the same size. And it's like, oh man, that would have been perfect. So I wound up doing that with my kids.
Genius.
Yeah, really well done. The sad part, and I know like you like signatures, so I'm going to bring this one up. Bill Watterson, the artist, creator of Calvin and Hobbes, would go to bookstores and so forth, and he was, because the anonymity that you get for being a comic strip artist, no one knows him, no one sees him. He could walk right down the street and no one, would pass by and no one would recognize him. That he'd go to these bookstores and he would sign random copies of Calvin and Hobbes books,
and he would put them back in
the shelf. And so like you might stumble upon one, but then he found that people were poaching them and selling them, like flipping them on eBay. So instead of being this great surprise for people to enjoy and just like, I found one that was signed, I'm going to keep it forever. It was like, I found one that's signed, I'm going to sell it as fast as I can on eBay.
Yeah.
So he quit doing that, but he had done that for years. So there's several like copies out there.
Well, I'm kind of glad you mentioned his name because somebody kind of did that as well once in a while. And that was actually apparently, I found out Jerry Robinson, the co-creator of Joker, Robin.
Wow.
Yeah, apparently. So, and I have this book, it's called Comics Between the Panels. I was up in Pittsburgh years and years and years ago on a vacation. I love going to bookstores. I love seeing what they got and this and that. And I came across the comic book section, graphic novel, and then I came across this, and it was published from Dark Horse, and I opened it up, and I'm like, Jerry Robinson? No, can't be. So I looked it up. I looked what his signature looked like. I matched up what I saw on my phone to that. Then I asked somebody that did know Robinson. I took a shot of it, and he goes, "Dude, I think that is a legit autograph by Jerry Robinson." Like, oh,
wow!
And I only paid $10.
Oh.
Yeah. And that's the beauty about going to these bookstores across the nation. You never know what you might find. And again, I was like, just remember just leaving there and just struck and just constantly just taking off my glasses, looking at it and like, oh my gosh, this is a legit thing. And I'm turning it to the flip side to make sure it wasn't like a stamp or anything like that, but you could see the indentation from the back. I was like, wow, this is a legit Jerry Robinson autograph.
Wow.
So did he sign it in marker or a pen? Because he said it dented, so it's probably a pen.
Actually, I'm sorry, I take that back. It was the complete cartoons of the New Yorker.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
See, I would have glossed right over that. That's too highbrow.
Yeah.
Them some thinking comic strips.
Yeah, and it came. Yeah, so I was like, holy smokes. Yeah, it's through and through. So yeah, I'm really proud about that.
That's pretty cool. So what is your prize signature, or the one worked the hardest to get maybe?
My prize signature in my collection, it might have to be my Amazing Spider-Man 59, I believe. It's the first Mary Jane Watson cover, and I got a CGC'd and I got it submitted to get Stanley and John Romita Sr.'s autograph.
All right.
That's high up there on my list.
Yeah. Well, you said earlier when Mike wasn't around that you've gone 20 years to MegaCon.
Yep, in Florida. Yep.
Or at least next year. This coming year is going to be your 20th.
Yeah. Great.
Mike, have you ever been to MegaCon down in Florida?
No.
No. Okay. A little too far for you.
the way it's been around here, I feel like it's been cold forever. That I don't know if I can adjust to a warmer climate at this point. I mean, when they say winter is coming, we've been experiencing it quite a bit. So
you
I,
you
I don't know.
you might melt.
I've been out there.
I always get a great laugh because we get a lot of snowbirds.
Oh
I,
yeah.
I always get a great laugh when individuals from the north say, "Oh, you know what? I'm going to stick around all year long and see how it goes." And they are literally melting because, not to take anything against people who live like in the cities, like New York City, Chicago, or any big metropolitan cities, because they always say about the humidity, the heat doesn't move because of the buildings. I used to live in Chicago for 2 years in my mid 20s, and the humidity up there is nothing compared to the humidity down here. It is a totally different ball game. And again, I remember meeting a neighbor who lived many, many years in Connecticut, all that stuff. And his first year, he almost had a heat stroke
Yeah.
because of
Wow.
the heat. It was like, and the thing about the Florida weather in June through late September is, again, it could be nice and sunny. The humidity's not that bad, but those afternoon showers could rain for about maybe up to an hour or so. And then all of a sudden it could clear up and it's sunny as sunny can be. But then all of a sudden the evaporation comes in, and man, that humidity skyrockets to
Right.
100.
Yeah.
And
What
sticky or yucky.
what does that do
Yeah.
to your comics? Does that do you
Oh,
have to do special care to your comics for that humidity?
well, fortunately, I have always been very careful with my comic books. They're always in a nice room. The bags and boarded a good chunk of them. I've never had any weather issues with my comic books.
Yeah.
Thank God.
No hurricane damage.
No, and that's another thing. I've lived through so many hurricanes, tropical storms, tropical depressions, solid roof, no roof leaks at all. Never had to abandon my house at all.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, so there's only one time ever I had to abandon my location, and this happened years and years ago, where we had a fire that was eating up a lot of acreage where I lived. I was really close. I mean, everybody was evacuating, this and that. I remember I had to take out a lot of my valuables, took out all my heavy price books and all my art with me, and took it to my friend's location. The only time I was actually scared for my collection, my friends who lived really close to that fire, because there was a giant brush fire that occurred in Naples in Collier County years ago. But again, fortunately, thank goodness for all the people involved to stop it. It didn't get worse when it really could have. That's the only
Right.
time. Well, I was going to say, I love your title, Why We Love Comic Books, because in 2012, my mother passed away due to heart surgery complications. And I was with somebody at the time to help me get my head taken care of in that sense, because I was busy taking care of my father, who just lost his partner for over 55 years. My brother was angry, and she told me, why don't you put an application in to work at one of these comic book shows? Because my profession is, I'm a professional photographer, and my other profession, I'm in the healthcare world. So she said, put an application in and see if you could be a photographer for these shows. And I did. And next thing I know, started photographing Florida SuperCon, Tampa Bay Con. And then I also found out that you could also host panels as well at these shows. It dawned on me. And I got to give credit to Dan DiDio, the former president of DC Comics, because he told this story at a panel that every now and then they would have a group meeting, but it was to remember why we love comic books. And it just spun from there. And I said, oh, you know what? Maybe I'll put, a little thing about on why we love comic books. Because sometimes if you read comic books and this and that, sometimes we get cynical, we get jaded, and we got to remember the essence on why we love comic books.
No, not us. We don't get jaded. Not at all.
So that was my pitch to Florida SuperCon, Tampa Bay Con throughout the years. And they said, yeah, sounds good. So I would host a panel titled Why We Love Comic Books for about 2.5 years.
Wow.
Okay.
And it was a nice turnout. I had some one of my favorite moments is when I would have creators actually showed up. I had Rags Morales showed up. I had
Nice.
Brad Walker showed up. And at one point, I even had a writer, Tony Bernard, showed up as well. And again, I was always say, why do you get into comic books? Why this? Why that? And what is some of those kookiest stories you ever read? And you said to yourself, wow, why did I just read that? And not to bash creators, but in a nicely gentler way. Like, I'll give you one. The most kookiest story that was a complete train wreck for me, the Spider-Man Clone Saga.
Mhm.
Michael,
That's up there. I mean, it was like that horse was not just beaten to death. It was mashed to bits. It was pulverized. That was way too long and too dumb, and it was insulting everybody. Editors, just like, even I think there was a change of editors as well. Like,
yeah.
we can't figure out what to do. We're going to walk away from this mess. Even.
And
Yeah.
I remember saying that for the very first time. And I remember it was at the Florida SuperCon years and years ago. And I had about a good 50 people. I couldn't believe that many people showed up. And I remember when I said that, you could hear all of the old timers, as I call us, what you just did with that groan of pain
Right.
that we all had to witness. And I remember Final Crisis also just came out, I believe, or something like that. And somebody mentioned Final Crisis because how did Batman die here, but yet he's still over here alive? And that was a train wreck.
Final Crisis. The bullet heard across time. Oh man.
Yeah.
So again, that was fun hosting those panels. Why we love comic books. So again, so when I saw you guys, that's what made me remember all of that wonderful time that I would host at those shows.
Yeah, I thought it would be a good title for a podcast. You know, Mike and I are old friends, and we've collected comics for a very long time. So really, I just use this podcast as an excuse to talk to Mike.
And vice versa.
But you know, talking about comics is kind of something we share, and it's just fun to do. And it's kind of a lifelong love, so you know, why not make the podcast as well about that? Man, someday I want to make it down to MegaCon. I almost did when George Perez died. I know MegaCon was going to have a huge event,
He did.
and my wife said, because she knows how much I love Perez, and just how much that affected me. She said, if you want, you can fly down there and just attend it. She knew how much it meant to me. I couldn't rationalize spending that much money, you know, from the family or whatever, so I didn't go. But it was really cool that she said just do it. She was all for it. I ended up not going, but man,
you are going to hate my guts for this.
Here we go.
I'm disconnecting right now.
Yeah.
So 2006, again, my very first time ever attending. And I always have to thank my local comic book shop, the Comic Book Warehouse, Big Hats, because the owner, Bob, who I miss so much, he died the same day as my mother, but 2 years apart. So that was rough. And the other co-owner, French, they always had a booth to sell weapons, you know, like the air guns and swords and stuff like that. So they needed help. And I just happened to walk in at the shop at the right time. And they're like, hey, kid, want to go to MegaCon? We need help. I'm like, yeah, sure. So that was my first time going, helping them up. And I remember French telling me, saying, hey, go to George Perez, no one else. Everybody. And he said a few words, so which I won't repeat. Yeah.
Sounds like a comic owner. Yeah, comic shop owner.
Oh, yeah. I was number 4 on his line, and I was able to get my commission of Firestorm, which was great. And the funky part is, George Perez, if you saw him a lot or what have you not, he actually had a good memory on faces and names.
Okay.
So then throughout the years, and again, he would show up at Miami a couple times, this and that, and other conventions around the area. Roberto, how you doing? And this and that, and there's always hugs and kisses. And this. I got to know his wife, Carol, wonderful woman, fantastic. Again, I mentioned I was a photographer. So at one point I was photographing MegaCon, and there they were, you know, next to each other. And I said, hey, mind if I get a shot of you two? And I took this great shot of them hugging each other as they're looking at me, and a few other shots of them. Again, as we all know, George died from cancer. There was somebody running his website on Facebook or somebody, I can't remember who it is, but they posted a photo of George. And at this point, you could tell that the cancer treatments and everything was eating his body because he was a thin man.
Yeah.
And there he is with his wonderful, no, I'd say a widow, Carol, next to him. And I'm looking at this, I'm like, oh man. But then I looked really close and I couldn't believe it. On their fire mantle was one of the photos I took of them that I sent, years ago. So they had one of my photos that I sent them on the mantelpiece.
Wow.
Holy smokes. I have a lot of George Perez artwork, and to see him have one of my shots on their mantelpiece, I was starting to cry when I saw that.
Oh, I bet.
I can't believe one of my favorite artists has one of my quote unquote art pieces of them on there. That was amazing. And one of the last times I saw George was in Miami, and I got him to get a Captain America in my absolute edition of the Avengers JLA crossover. And then there's a great pic of us where I'm kissing his forehead as he's holding the book open. So I definitely miss George a lot. It was great to talk to, not just of comic books, but in life in general. Because being Puerto Rican and growing up in New York at the time, I could semi-relate because my parents grew up during that time period as well, in that area, and also the food as well. So we always talk about Latin food of all kinds.
Oh, yeah, I bet.
So, yeah, it was great. And so I got, like I said, I got a ton of George Perez stuff, this full-blown Punisher.
Was that commissioned, or was that just something you were able to just buy outright from him?
Both, actually.
Oh.
Yeah, so I got very fortunate. Like I said, I think that's one of the perks also working at these shows, because, again, I was attending from 2006 up until 2012 as a fan. And, again, in 2012, that's why I started working for the shows, either as a photographer, working for the artists and writers. It was all by accident, too, and at this point, a lot of the artists and writers have seen my face because of going through these shows all the time and getting commissions, getting autographs, this and that. So a lot of them it was a kind of cool first name basis. At Florida SuperCon, they didn't have me as a photographer that year, but more so working on the floor at the comic book section, which I'm like, perfect, great. Most of these people know me and vice versa. And I remember walking down the aisle and somebody said, hey, you need to go to Buzz. I said, yeah, go to his table. He has to go to a panel. So I went to his booth, and then he goes, hey, what's up? Oh, great. I got to go. I'm late for a panel. Just watch over my stuff. So he leaves for about an hour or so. But within the first 10 minutes sitting at his booth, I was bored. And people were coming over. Hey, where's Buzz? Oh, he's at a panel right now, but here's his stuff, and he has it at this price. Okay, I'll buy it. Yeah, okay, sure. So I started selling stuff at his table, which apparently I wasn't supposed to do. Yep. But when Buzz came back, I said, hey, Buzz, how'd it go? Fine. And I showed him, here's $80. What the? And what? Yeah, so he gave me 20. Here you go. Are you sure? Yeah. Keep it, man. Wow, okay. I need to talk to you after this show. Okay, fine. And this show, which is Sunday, I came up to him. So what's up? You know who I work for? Yeah, I work with Neil. So next thing I know, I go to Neil Adams. And if you ever been to a show, Neil Adams, massive giant booth. Okay, this is a monster of a booth. Buzz goes, hey, Neil, we need to hire this guy. You be one of our helpers on the shows. Neil goes, all right, we'll try you out. And then the next thing I know, I was working for Neil Adams for at least roughly 2.5 years before slowly his health was going down. And then COVID really happened. So that was an awesome experience working with Neil Adams because, again, I really got to know him very well, stories, his background, everything. Told me the stories on how regarding the lawyer issue with Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster about getting the names back on the credits and all that stuff as well. Told me great stories about Jeanette Kahn. So it was wonderful. It was great. Told me certain stories about former creators, about how they had unfortunate fallouts, stuff like that. One of my favorite things I got to see is when I got to see him put the final touches on the wedding cover that he did of when Batman and Catwoman were getting married. I got to see that pretty much before anybody else did. And again, I was able to get original art piece from him as well, because I remember it was in Tampa a year or two later. We're taking out the boxes and putting everything up, which took forever. And I opened this one box, and I put everything out, and I saw this paper. It was a drawing that he did, because apparently he was trying to make something like a flyer, but he didn't have enough time to make the flyer. So he hand drew this item. It says, you can order this massive tomb signed by Neil Adams. So there's his signature and all that stuff. And he drew a Batman head sketch on it too, a nice size. And I showed him this paper, and it was just he and I. There was nobody else. And I said, Neil, what's this? And he goes, oh yeah, we sold out of that. What are you going to do with this? I don't know, throw it away. And I don't know how to this day I managed to say it, but I said, can I have it? He looks at it. Yeah, sure, go for it. So I have an original Neil Adams, I guess you could say, promotional flyer piece or something like that. I hold this very dear to me.
Oh yeah, that's great.
Now, you don't have a copy of that associated book to put it with, do you?
No, I don't. I've been looking for that. And
that's like there's your holy grail to go chasing after. Is like,
oh no, I got my holy grails. My holy grail in my collection is Police Comics #1. First appearance of the Human Bomb, Phantom Lady, and my personal favorite, my all-time favorite comic book character, Plastic Man. And I have a original Jack Cole piece as well. After he finished the comic books, and right before he got hired by Playboy, he did a lot of gag cartoons for magazines, and I have an original piece.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah. And that's from 1956, I believe, or 57. And it was a year before Hugh Hefner hired him. And the best part is Hugh Hefner grew up reading comic books, and it turns out Plastic Man was one of his favorite characters, and he didn't know at the time that he hired the creator of Plastic.
Wow. What did you think of Chip Kidd's book on Plastic Man?
I enjoyed it. It was cute. It was great. It had a lot of stuff at the time I didn't know, because I've had, and I have the book on the other side of my bookcase. When that book came out, that's when I really started figuring out who Jack Cole was. And then how he wrote 2 letters to Hugh Hefner and his wife before he decided to take his life, and how at one point when he was a young kid, he was on a bike and traveled across the nation and this and that, and how he had a comic strip going called Betsy and Me before, again, he ended his life. So I love that book a lot, actually. A nice, good, as close as you could get to an autobiography of Jack Cole.
Yeah. I sat in on a panel with Chip Kidd giving, and he was talking about that book. And one of the things he wanted to do, but the publisher said it was just too obscure to pull it off. But the cover was supposed to look like Plastic Man shaped himself, as did the book.
When they came close, I know they got the gargles on it.
Yeah,
right?
So there's some aspects. Yeah, but then they got him running on it, and
yeah,
the whole thing was supposed to be just that red, black chevron, and it was just like, because whenever he transformed into a shape, it was still Plastic Man. You could see the red colors and the scheme
and the black.
Yeah, and it was like, that would have been brilliant, even if it was like a slip cover or something like that.
Yeah,
kind of like. But he said like that, you need to have the logo on it. No one's going to know, and who this is if you don't put some sort of words on it. And I was like, well, that's it for that.
Ruined it.
Yeah, missed opportunity there.
Yeah, I mean, that would have been a perfect, because I mean, that was one thing that separated Plastic Man from all the other stretchy people, is that he really was able to take on whatever shape he wanted to take on.
And I think another thing that I love about Plastic Man and hate what they've done to him throughout the years is that, again, if you read the Jack Cole stuff, and again, thank goodness for the DC archives, if you have those, because I have all of them 1 through 8. I wish they continued the rest. He was more of the straight man. Everybody else was more of the comic relief type thing as well. Again, I kind of hate how they kind of mishandled him. I did not like the Kyle Baker's rendition of Plastic Man.
Yeah,
that was really hard, and I like his stuff, but I thought that was a misfit, unfortunately.
I can take this back to George Perez for a second. My wife for Christmas after George died, they were selling off things from his studio, uh, just
Oh,
just to give, Carol some money and stuff like that. And she couldn't afford some of the higher end stuff like that, but she did get
mm,
me this pencil box that is from his studio with a bunch of pens. Let's see, pens from his, and then it's certified and everything like that. I can't really see that in the blur, but
I see.
it's my favorite
Oh,
thing I've ever gotten. Just
and
to
that's all
know,
his original stuff, right? Inside still?
yep, that's all. He's got his Sharpies, he's got his pencils. Some of them are down to like the nub. It's just amazing.
Wow.
Yeah, it's an amazing piece. I keep it close by, and I try not to use any of them. If I ever look for a pencil, that's not gonna be in that one. Uh,
Yeah.
There's probably like dead skin cells in there that we could clone him from.
Probably, yeah. It's my favorite gift I've ever gotten. So
That's wicked awesome.
yeah, it's my little piece of
So,
George.
so wait, when was the last time you guys attended a convention?
Well,
Wow.
together, that's going way back. That'd be 94.
96. Well, we went to a couple after Chicago.
Yeah.
Image came out with a big release. Just came out in 94. So we went to that big Chicago reveal. They had a huge tent in the back in a parking lot and just lined up with people from the new Image. But we went to probably three or four after that too. Probably 97 or 98 was probably our last one together. We've been to separate ones, but I mean, we have a Grand Rapids Comic Con,
I've
which
been there actually. I was there about 5 years ago,
okay,
and
Hmm.
the boss lady, as I call her, is Renee Wittestecker. She's a representative to a lot of artists and writers and even actors. At the time, Jim Shooter she represented Jim Shooter. So that was fun. That's another person I had a wonderful time stories, and we'd always after the show we go out for drinks and dinner. It was wonderful. Yeah, I miss him too. I don't care what
Hmm.
anybody says about Neil. I don't care what anybody says about Shooter. Did they have the flaws? Absolutely. But when I spent time with them, they were wonderful. They were great, and I miss my friends very much. So, yeah, we're at Grand Rapids, Michigan, and I remember we got snowed in when we were supposed to leave. So it was Shooter, Graham, and myself stuck in an airport for about 12 hours or
oh
so.
okay, yep, that's just down. I'm a couple miles away from that, so we have that convention and a few others. Chicago's pretty close.
Detroit.
Detroit, yeah, Detroit Comic Con, of course, Motor City. But it's probably been a couple years since I went to anything other than those. Probably 10 years since I went to Chicago.
Chicago's got a couple of them, but C2E2 is like the bigger one.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I remember going there before it became C2E2 as well,
Yep.
before the whole name change and everything.
Yeah.
And I
Wizard World.
remember, yeah, when Wizard was good.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. That's when we went too. So
Yeah.
Yeah. And I remember going there because I used to live in Chicago for about 2 years. So that was a fun experience going to Graham Comics,
Graham
Chicago
Cracker.
Comics.
Yep.
And it was also because of that. I was living in Chicago. I got to good acquaintance with writer Brian Azzarello
Mm.
from 100 Bullets, fame. One of very few new 52 books I read was his Wonder Woman.
okay.
And I thoroughly enjoyed. And Dr. Occult, all that stuff. Yes, I know his Banner, Cage. So again, I got to be good acquaintance with him. So anytime he shows up to Florida, it's always, hey, how you doing? Type of thing. And it's great. I just like going to these conventions all the time if I can, just because to me, it's my escapism. Because one thing I've kind of noticed, 95% of the time, when you enter those doors, when you go to these shows, nobody cares on who you voted for. Nobody cares your political beliefs or anything. You just want to go over there and have fun. Have fun and geek out with fellow nerds, geeks, and dweebs. I got friends that we have different points of views and we don't talk about it. We mostly talk about comic books, pop culture stuff, and stuff like that. And I love it.
Yeah,
And
it's a good escapism. Uh, there's some friends I don't want to know what they think politically. I just want to know who they like, between,
Batman or Superman.
or Punisher. Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Exactly.
It's you just went to one, right?
Yeah, I just went to Southwest Florida Comic Fest. It's the first show that they did, and again, it was strictly comic books, no celebs of any kind, and thank God,
Mm.
a lot of local artists, which is great. Help support the local artist. My good friend Steve, I see him all the time at these shows. He travels all over the place as well. He had his portfolio. He knows, because we talk about this all the time. I'm a massive, massive Jose Luis Garcia Lewis fan. He's my all-time favorite artist, Garcia Lopez. And I said, "So what are you looking for?" And I said, "Do you have any Garcia Lopez?" "I do." And then he
Mm.
showed me this Garcia Lopez. It's Renee Montoya with a question, and it's
Wow.
inked wash, basically. I'm like, holy smokes. So I got that. So thank you, Steve. And then another thing that I purchased over there too, and again, I love Golden Age comic books and stuff like that, and I've seen this comic book several times. This was actually in the documentary for Jack Kirby, and this is The Double Life of Private Strong, and I have issue, and it's number one,
Wow.
5.5.
Oh,
And
nice.
the gentleman, the original price, I have no problem saying this price, was originally $75 he had on it. And he goes and says, "You know what? You've got cash, I'll give it to you 50.
Wow.
There you go."
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
June of 59, this book. And I
Wow.
just love it because, again, if you look at it, Google it, you can see the action sequence all around the cover as well
Yeah.
in a frame by frame shot. I'm like, that is amazing how Jack Kirby did that.
Yeah, here's a machine.
I know, and you hear greats like Wally Wood, Steve Ditko, Kirby, Ramita, all those cats were just producing multiple pages a day, and then you see today's artists who are struggling to just get a book out sometimes.
Right.
Really, I think one of the biggest awards that I remember years ago that they was All Star Superman. It got an award, I believe, for best continuing series. The only reason it was continuing because Frank Quietly couldn't keep a damn deadline. It was a maxi series. There was no, I mean,
Yeah.
that book took forever to complete.
It's
Yeah.
Camelot 3000 all over again,
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's another one that took forever because Ryan Bowling was horrible at his deadlines. How did Killing Joke come out? Was amazing.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a
So
lot
again,
of long delayed books.
the one thing that has been really irritating about going to some of these conventions is the lack of love for the comic book creators, because you see so much hard push on celebs. Okay, that's fine. I get you need a quote unquote a marquee name or names, but the backbone is the comic book creators.
Yeah.
You know, they're the ones that helped all this multi-million-dollar business. Show them some love at least.
Yeah. Especially at ones like MegaCon, you got a nice weather in Florida. You're gonna get all those old timers, all those old creators, who are enjoying the weather would rather do that than come up here to Michigan. Not that they don't, but I'm sure you get a lot of the
We
older
used we
class.
we used to, but again, due to management changement with MegaCon, certain things, I think, regarding contracts and stuff like that, really kind of changed things up.
Hmm.
Again, there's a lot of talent going to MegaCon, which is nice, but rarely that you're seeing like the Silver Age or even early Bronze Age artists being there.
Hmm.
It's a lot of new talent, which is fine, which is great.
Yeah.
But there's none really. Like the only name, Michael Golden is one of them, the co-creator of Bucky O'Hare, co-creator of Rogue, and co-creator of Micronauts. God, I love that series.
Both of them, because there's like the regular Micronauts and then there's the new voyages.
Nope, the new one, the original one with him and Bill Manato. I think I'm saying his name.
Mantlo. Yeah.
Mantlo, thank you. That original. So again, there's him, which is fantastic, great. Frank Miller's going to be there for both Saturday and Sunday. But again, everybody else seems semi-new. And there's a couple people that's been around for about a couple years, but there's no really, like I said, silver or bronze age artists that are really attending, which is a
Well,
shame.
yeah. How many are left? I mean, we just lost Sal.
Yeah, well, he was 89 years old, so that was a hell of a good run
Yeah, that's a pretty good
before
run.
he got canceled.
Yeah, that was too bad. But yeah, he can't say he didn't leave a legacy, that's for
I
sure.
know, and all the pages he inked and this and that, and of course, you know, inked his own brother. That's kind of cool. For me personally, I love seeing those guys. If Garcia Lopez is even in, like, I went to HeroCon for the first time last year in 25 just because of Garcia Lopez. I drove all the way from South Florida to HeroCon, and that's a great comic book show. No celebs of any kind, blah, blah, blah. Strictly comic book people. And that's what I wish MegaCon got back to again.
Yeah.
Back to comic books. With the whole changing of the guard years ago, they're more affiliate. They want to be more like an off version of Comic Con with all the celebs.
Yeah, that's how they are
So
up here too, with all the celebs and stuff like that. It's rare we get more than one or two known celebrities of comics. It's too bad. It's not. I mean, even in the 90s, that's when the buildup of all the celebs were really shining. You know, you still got a good scattering of comic people. You know, that's where we saw Perez and Miller and Gaiman and you know all that stuff in the 90s. But yeah, even up here, you know, we'll get a Jim Shooter once in a while, but that's about it. You know.
And that'll be the end of part one of our conversation with Roberto, with Rob from TikTok. If you're enjoying this, let us know. Part two will be coming out very soon. I thought we'd just get this out here and start the ball rolling for our road to 100. All you got to do is let us know you're out there, comment or email us. You can just text us from the top of the webpage. And this is why I love comics podcast.buzzsprout.com. You can email us at and this is why I love comics at gmail.com. You can join us on the exit and this is why I L1. We're on the Facebook and this is why I love comics podcast. We're on the TikTok. We're at and why I love comics podcast. Support the show. You can do all that stuff. All the links are in the show notes. Thanks to all our supporters and friends of the show. We couldn't do without you. Thanks to producer Katie, producer Tony, co-host Matt 2.0, Kevin, Jamie, and Matt 10.0. And now thanks to Rob. You can contact him. Roberto Photos. He's on TikTok at Rob_U_now. Check him out. Any other questions you have, just let us know. Thanks again to Rob for this great interview, and we'll talk to him more next week. I'll talk to you next time for the podcast. I'm Andy, and that's Mike, and we'll talk to you next time. Bring on the Thunder Chicken.
All this it's in my heart.
So how long you been collecting art?
Oh God! From 2006, when I went to my very first comic book convention, which was MegaCon, which I'm going to be celebrating 20 years.
That's crazy.
I know. I'm like, my God, what happened there?